masjid, being patient, sitting down, opening a book, opening a notebook, clicking your pen, and taking the time to learn. Taking the time to learn. Because no doubt, we live in a time right now where people are sufficing with the internet. People are sufficing with social media. They're sufficing with the latest Instagram card that's been done up graphically nice. They're sufficing with the latest tweet. They're sufficing with the latest YouTube video. And that's what they believe is seeking knowledge. And no doubt, when you evaluate those two crowds, you see the difference. When you evaluate those two crowds, you see the difference. The environment that we're in right now, the culture that we're in right now, there's no confusion, there's no chaos, there's no backbiting, there's no slandering, there's no lying, there's no ignoble behavior, there's none of that. Rather, it's an environment of learning, an environment of brotherhood, and an environment of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no confusion and no disarray. And that's something that all of us with a pair of eyes and a pair of ears, we see it right now. We see it right now. I'm not saying anything strange. We see it right now. Where's the chaos and the confusion? Nowhere. But the chaos, the confusion, and the disarray is in cyberspace. It's in the comment section of cyberspace. It's in the trolls that troll Twitter. It's in the Facebook posts. That's the community of chaos. That's who's in chaos and that's who's in disarray. The cyberspace community. But as it relates to our diligent brothers and sisters, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that we see here today, we're not in chaos and we're not in disarray and we don't have any confusion over here. But rather, if a person suffices and makes the internet his community, then no doubt your community is in chaos. And your community is in disarray. And your community does not know which way to turn. But again, that's in cyberspace, not in the Salafi masajid. Not in this masjid, not in Masjid bin Baz, not in any other Salafi masjid. There's no confusion. So no one should think that. Someone tells you there's confusion and disarray in the Salafi communities, you say, where? Where's the confusion and chaos? I don't see any here right now. I didn't see any when I was at Masjid bin Baz this week. I'm speaking about what I see. I didn't see any chaos and confusion. And I'm quite sure our respected visitors that come from their Salafi masajid, I don't think that they see any chaos and confusion in their masjid either. So beware of the internet. Beware of the internet. Don't allow the internet to make you believe something is a reality that's not. The internet will have you thinking something is reality and it's not. It's delusion. And people with a lack of true perception of the reality of affairs talking. There's no way that you could talk about the Salafi masajid if you never come. How? How have you never heard? How have you never prayed with the Salafi masajid? How? You don't have perception of the issue. And the scholars, they say you can't make a ruling until you perceive the issue. So no doubt, we don't want to dwell on that too long. We want to enter into the topic that we want to discuss today. But the point being, if you didn't gather or grasp everything that I just said, grasp the fact that we want to maintain this type of culture, this type of environment, sitting, learning, being patient, and that's the issue. That's the issue, being patient. It's hard to start from page 1 of the book and go up to page 300 and whatever, for example. That takes some patience. But it's easy to click on a YouTube video, a Facebook post, a Twitter tweet, an Instagram card. That's easy. And it takes no effort. It takes no effort. And you get out of something what you put into it. How much effort did you put into that? What do you think you're going to get out of it? So understand that we're looking at two communities, and that's just off the top of the head. It could be more things going on. You have a group of people that are lost on the internet, and you have a group of people who are firm in the masjid, learning in an environment of calmness and tranquility. As it relates to the topic that we want to discuss today, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, it's the topic of tubayyin as-sunnah or akhbir bis-sunnah wa la tukhasim alayha. Inform the people of the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And write this down from the beginning and memorize this sentence. Inform people of the sunnah and don't quarrel about it. There's nothing to argue about. Inform people of the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and don't quarrel. And again, that's what you see. That's the people of chaos and confusion, quarreling day in and day out. There's no need to quarrel. There's no need to go back and forth on the internet. For what? Inform people of the sunnah and don't quarrel. And a lot of people, that's where they find their niche. Quarreling with the people. The person becomes known for that, just quarreling and arguing and yelling and screaming and debating and going back and forth. That's what they become known for. But if you were to examine these people who are known for quarreling and bickering, if you were to examine their educational efforts, you'll find that they don't have half the attention when it comes to that. If they crack open a book or try to teach a quarrelsome person, if they extremely quarrelsome person, and how many people do we have like that? They just want to argue and debate. Just want to argue and bicker and go back and forth and back and forth and forth and back. Clarify the sunnah and don't quarrel. And no doubt we'll read some narrations that when you don't quarrel with these people, you find that they go away because that's their niche. If everything is quiet and no one pays attention to them. Clarify the sunnah and don't quarrel. We have in this hadith that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that the most disliked person or the most disliked of men to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the quarrelsome person. قال حافظ في شرحه الحافظ ابن حجر, he said أي الشديد الندد الكثير الخصومة. Was meant by that is the quarrelsome person or the person who's extreme in his quarreling and plentiful. The person who's plentiful in his quarreling, always quarreling. Always going back and forth. And no doubt we'll mention some details as we continue to read. Sometimes you have to have a discussion with somebody, but you have to evaluate the person. You have to evaluate the person. The person may really want the truth. Some mustashid. He's someone who's seeking guidance. At that particular time, you clarify for him. You might have to do a little. You might have to go back and forth with him a little bit. But you feel from him, or you see from him that he wants the what? The haq. He's trying to learn. He wants the truth. He may be confused about a few things. But then you have the other person. You have the other person, and you can clearly tell that he just wants to do what? He just wants to win an argument. He just wants to win an argument. He just wants to be right. At that point, you have to do what? You got to leave him alone. I clarify for you the sunnah. I'm not going to argue about it. And even on social media, the same thing. More so with those who are in the realm of da'wah than other than them, more so. But even on social media, a person contacts you on social media, at you or whatever the case may be, asking a question. How do you know that the person, how do you evaluate what type of person it says? Me personally, I just click on their page and look on their page. You see exactly what the person is about. See exactly who we follow, exactly who he liked, the previous conversations that he had. And you can tell, you say, it's a person that he's just trying to contact me so he can do what? Argue. Same thing with social media. Evaluate the person. You know what happens after I see that? What you think most people do? Block him. I don't have to talk to you to block you. It's already clear from the whole timeline that all you want to do is what? Argue. So why do I keep mentioning social media? Because that's the time that we're in right now. Not mentioning it just because, but that's where you see these arguments and these debates and these going back and forth. That's where you see it. So no doubt you can evaluate a person like that as well. You can evaluate him like that. You can tell whether he wants to argue or he really wants to be guided to some type of, to the correct issue or the correct position concerning a particular mas'ala, a particular issue. And listen to this particular hadith. This is a beautiful hadith. In the Tirmidhi, number 3,253. The Tirmidhi, number 3,253. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, ما ضل قوم بعد هدى كانوا عليه إلا أوتوا الجدل. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that a people didn't go astray after having been upon guidance. A people didn't go astray after having been on guidance, except that it was because they started to argue. A people didn't go astray after having been upon guidance, except that they started to do what? Except that they started to argue with people and go back and forth. And no doubt, we'll bring that to reality too. How many people do you know that you've seen amongst the community? You've seen amongst the community, and you notice that they were a person that's always what? On the internet going back and forth, always walking around trying to debate, always walking around trying to argue. After a while or so, you don't see them because they got sucked up by doubts. They got sucked up by doubts. They didn't have the proper tools. They didn't have the proper ability. They didn't have the proper knowledge. They didn't ground themselves, and they wanted to go back and forth and listen to everybody and argue about this and argue about that. So they finally come across something that they can't rebut, and the doubt snatches them. After having been upon guidance, after having loving the scholars of the Sunnah, after having loved Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Ubaid, Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi, and other than them from the scholars, after loving them, you find that they have an aversion to them. They're scholars of the Sunnah. Why do you have such an aversion? After having loving the people of the Sunnah, being nurtured in the communities of the Sunnah, whole disposition changes. So no doubt this particular hadith is a beautiful hadith and an encouragement for us to not busy ourselves with arguing. To not busy ourselves with arguing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to love learning the book of Allah, to love learning the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to love seeking our understanding of the text from the companions and the tabi'een and atba' tabi'een. Allah has blessed us to love that, to love the correct path. Why place that in jeopardy because a person wants to bicker and argue? The hadith, it says clearly, people that were upon guidance, they didn't go astray except after becoming involved in bickering and arguing. Rawahu Muslim fi sahihi. And likewise Muslim, he narrated, or he collected in his collection of authentic hadith, number 2666. And Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, and Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, radiyallahu anhuma, قال, that he said, حجرت إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يوما. He said, I met with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the morning. قال فسمع أصوات رجلين اختلفا في آية. So we heard the voice of two men differing about a verse. So we heard the voices of two men differing about a verse. فخرج علينا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he came out. يعرف في وجهه الغضب. So you can see the anger in his face. You can see the anger in the face of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقال إنما هلك من كان قبلكم باختلافهم في الكتاب. And he mentioned that those who came before you were destroyed because of their differing in the book. Rawahu ibn, and likewise we have another hadith, Rawahu ibn Majah. We have a hadith that's found in the collection of Ibn Majah, hadith number 254. And Jabir ibn Abdullah, on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, that he said, لا تعلموا العلم لتباهلوا ولتباهوا به العلماء. Don't learn knowledge in order to contend with the ulama. Don't learn knowledge in order to contend and compete with the ulama. وَلَا لِتُمَارُوا بِهِ سُفَهَاء, and not to argue with the foolish. Don't learn knowledge in order to argue with the foolish. And no doubt, it's a bad sign when you see a student of knowledge trying to debate with the layman. Know that that's a bad sign. That when you see a student of knowledge trying to go back and forth with people who haven't what? Studied. And that's why Abu Uwais, that's what he criticized who for doing? Solomon. He criticized him for that. Why would you go to the masjid and try to talk to a bunch of what? Laymen. You're a student of knowledge, take your affair out with who? Another student of knowledge, or take your affair out with who? The scholars. Hadith says don't. seek knowledge in order to argue with the foolish. And we're not saying that the laymen are foolish. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying what's clear from this is that you're on a higher what? Level. So why do you want to debate and go back and forth with someone on a lesser what? Level, unless you're trying to cast some doubts on him. And no doubt we hear about that. About students of knowledge trying to go around and talk to who? Or those who have studied trying to go around and talk to who? The lay person from the Salafi communities. And as our brother Hassan, what did he just say before we started this talk? There are going to be people walking around trying to do what? Spread shubha and argue. Send them to a student. And don't let anybody pull you to the side and talk. Don't let anybody pull you to the side and talk. You want to talk, let's talk in public. And what you say, do you mind if I spread it? I don't want any conversation just between me and you. No. It's about the deen. It should have to be between what? Me and you. Religious opinions are for not in all cases, but generally speaking, religious opinions are for everybody to know. Some things you have to keep to you. Every knowledge is not to be spread. But if you want to talk to me about something, wow, what are we keeping a secret? Why can't anybody else hear? Let's go to the student to talk about it. So no doubt, that's not befitting for a person to study. It's not befitting for a person to study and to want to dialogue with someone on a lesser level. And likewise, don't seek knowledge so everybody can turn to you and look at you. Wallahi, I don't want to be sitting here. Wallahi, I don't want to be sitting here. I wish I didn't have to sit here. The only reason that I sit here is because I feel it's in a manner. I feel like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia gave me the opportunity to study, and they expected for me to come back and to help people. Other than that, wallahi, I don't want to be sitting here. Don't want to learn knowledge in order so people can look at you in the city. It's not the reason to learn knowledge. And that's why it befuddles me when you hear people say that they want to be at a certain masjid and teach at a certain masjid. This microphone is a fitna. Nobody knows this is a fitna. Nobody wants this microphone. Someone comes better than me, sit in the seat. Nobody wants fame. Nobody wants money. Nobody wants women. Who wants fame, money, and women? Who wants that? Left that stuff. I accepted Islam. I had that. Been there, done that. So it's ajib when you hear people accuse others of wanting fame, money, and nobody wants this microphone. Nobody sought knowledge so people can look at them. It's a fitna. I'd rather be sitting. That's one of the main things you miss when you leave studying from overseas. You miss sitting where you're sitting. Wallahi, you miss that. You miss learning. You miss trying to better yourself. I don't know any student that's on the flyer for this lecture. And other than them from Salafi students, I don't know any of them that want to sit right here. This particular hadith is clear. This particular hadith is clear in its wording. I don't seek knowledge in order so the people can look at you in the sittings, in the gatherings. فَمَنْ فَعَلَ ذَلِكَ. So the one who does those things, فَالنَّارُ النَّارُ. Then the fire. then the fire, the fire. We'll choose some other narrations from this chapter because I really want to read the speech of Sheikh Abdul Salam. So we'll choose a couple more narrations from this particular explanation, then we'll move on to the speech of Sheikh Abdul Salam. We have a narration of his Sunan al-Darimi, and the Sunan of al-Darimi, number 406, and Abi Ja'far Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir, قال لا تجالسوا أصحاب الخصومات. Don't sit with the people that want to bicker and argue all the time. Don't sit with the people that want to bicker and argue all the time. فَإِنَّهُمُ الَّذِينَ يَخُوضُونَ فِي آيَاتِ اللَّهِ. They are those who go deep and delve into the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وفي جامع بيان العلم وفضله لابن عبد البر عن مالك قال, on the authority of Malik, قال المراء يقسي القلب. And pay attention to that particular statement. That arguing and bickering and debating, it causes the heart to become hard. Causes the heart to become hard. وَيُورِثُ الظِّلْمِ. And it brings about rancor and malice and spite. No doubt, that's true. No doubt. That arguing, it hardens the heart. And it brings about rancor and malice and spite. No doubt, I say that to my brothers right here and right now. Don't argue with one another. Don't argue and go back and forth and bicker and quarrel with one another. It's going to cause your heart to become hard, and it's going to cause something between you and your brothers. And that's the reality. I don't think that anybody in here is going to deny that. When you argue and bicker with your brother, sometimes things, they fall into what? Fall into the heart due to that argument and that bickering. Just leave it off. Just leave it off. And we'll mention some speech from Sheikh Abdul Salam about that. وقال عمر ibn Abdul Aziz. And likewise Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said in the same book, Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadli. Jamil Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadli. Write this narration down. Write this narration down. من جعل دينه غرضا للخصومات أكثر التنقل. The person who makes his religion a place of argumentation, he's going to change his positions a lot. A person who allows his religion to become a point of argumentation, what he believes, he allows it to come where he's going to keep arguing about, then he's going to change his positions frequently. Because he's always doing what? Arguing and bickering. And no doubt a person that, if any one of us in here, inshallah us all of us, have that quality that we don't argue and bicker, how do you feel your firmness? How do you feel your firmness? Staying what? Firm. Staying reading Qawaid al-Arba. Going to read Thalathatul Usul. Going to read Kashf al-Shubahat. Aqidat al-Raziyain. Usul al-Sunnah. Sharh al-Sunnah. 40 Hadith. Bulugh al-Maram. Umdatul Ahkam. And the person's never doing what? He's never what? Arguing and going back and forth. But rather he's what? He's focused and he's going straight ahead learning. How do you feel yourself? Firm. Growing. Increasing, learning more knowledge. Because you're not busying yourself going back and forth on the internet. You're not busying yourself going back and forth with other people. but rather you're learning. And no doubt the scholars, they mentioned that argumentation is a source or a reason for a person to become what? Doubtful and shaky. Because every day you're listening to doubts. Every day you're listening to arguments, you're listening to doubts. To the end of the day, you leave out confused. Or you log off confused. So no doubt a person has to leave those things alone and focus on ilm. Focus on knowledge. Focus on these types of environments. A person asks himself, am I on social media trying to learn Islam more than the masjid? More than the masjid? That's a question for yourself. We're not talking about the women. The women, it's good. They can learn. And I don't mean social media so much. I mean mixed is what I'm saying. From a Salafi masjid. In the house learning. But a question for yourself. Am I learning more from Instagram? Am I waiting for the next Instagram post? Am I waiting for the next tweet? Am I waiting for the next Facebook post? The next YouTube video? Is that my daily portion of knowledge? Or is my daily portion of knowledge that I'm going to come home from work, I'm going to shower, I'm going to put on my best thobe, and I'm going to head to the masjid for the class between Maghrib and Isha? What's your daily portion of knowledge? That's a question that we can ask ourselves. What is our daily portion of knowledge? And no doubt, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that before the environment that we see now, and perhaps it's before social media, the environment that we see now was the environment that we saw, or that I saw. I'm not too old, but when I first started coming around, that was the environment that was around. That everybody was memorizing Thalathatul Usul. I'm not saying that knowledge starts with Thalathatul Usul, it starts with the Quran and then the person moves forward. But the point being is that everybody was busy with what? Knowledge. And just to lighten the mood, we would come on Sundays, and I don't even know if I see anybody here from that. We would come, maybe it does. We would come on Sundays, and we would go around the corner, a nice group of Muslims, and go play basketball at the Hollow, in between the salats. No doubt, alhamdulillah, we were trying to be good Muslims, so we were praying in the masjid, and we would still make it back to praying in Jama'ah. We would go, and we would play basketball. You know, sometimes you lose. When you lose, what you call? Winners. So the people on the side, guess what we will be doing? Going over Thalathatul Usul with each other. What you memorize from Thalathatul Usul? I memorized to do that with Isa Underdo. Me and Isa Underdo used to sit on the bleachers and try to go back and forth with what we memorized from Thalathatul Usul. And I remember telling him, just before I went to study, and I remember telling him, I said, you know what, next book I want to memorize is Umdatul Ahkam. Point being, why am I saying that? I'm saying that because that's the environment that we need to get back to. Log off social media, log off. Log off. And we're not saying that you can't benefit from social media. You can. You can. But my question to you is that your daily portion of knowledge, because that's not knowledge. You should be in the masjid learning. The way that the masjid is packed right now, this is how it should be for every class. Not increasing views, somebody else's views, but we should be in a class. And no doubt you'll see a difference. As it relates to the kalam or the speech of Shaykh Abdul Salam, he mentions وَالْمَقْصُودُ بِالْمُخَاصَمَةِ الْجَدَلُ الْمُوَرِّثُ لِلْضَغَائِمِ. He mentioned that what's meant by argumentation and dispute is the argumentation that brings about rancor, spite, and malice. It's the argumentation that brings about rancor, spite, and malice. وَلَا شَكَّ أَنَّ هَذَا الْجَدَلُ عِقَابٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. And he mentioned that this type of, there's no doubt that this type of argumentation is a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Person finds himself, going back and forth and it's causing rancor and hatred and malice. There's no doubt it's a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلِذَا قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما ثبت عنه. For that reason, you find that what has been established on the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said in the hadith that we mentioned previously, مَا ضَلَّ قَوْمٌ بَعْدَ هُدًى كَانُوا عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا أُوتُوا الْجَدْلَ. That the people didn't stray from the guidance that they were once upon, except due to what? Argumentation. That argumentation is a punishment that'll cause you to do what? Lose your path. That type of argumentation is a punishment that will cause you to lose your path. He mentioned وَقَدْ كَثُرَتْ عِبَارَاتُ الْأَئِمَّةِ فِي تَحْذِيرٍ مِنَ الْجَدْلِ. And he mentioned we have a ton of narrations, many narrations from the great imams as it relates to warning from argumentation. We have many narrations from the great imams warning us from argumentation. وَبَيَانِ آفَاتِهِ, and clarifying its perils. حتى قال الإمام مالك رحمه الله, as Imam Malik, he said رحمه الله, الجدال في الدين ينشئ المراء. He mentioned that arguing about the deen causes showing off in dialogue. Arguing about the deen causes showing off in dialogue. What do I mean by showing off in dialogue? Meaning that the two people are just arguing in order to do what? Just win and see who's right. Argumentation is going to lead to that type of discussion. It's going to lead to the type of discussion where the two people involved, all they're trying to do is be right. And the issue is not me or you being right, but the issue is what? That we arrive at what? Truth. Because once a person feels that they want to be right, they're going to start saying anything. Just to be what? Correct. وَيُذْهِبُ بِالنُّورِ الْعِلْمِ مِنَ الْقَلْبِ. And pay attention to this. Likewise, argumentation, it snatches the light of knowledge from the heart. Likewise, argumentation, it snatches the light of knowledge from the heart. While you gussy, and it makes it hard, makes your heart hard. And likewise, it causes rancor, spite, and malice. And that's why I say to my brothers here, don't argue with one another. Don't argue with one another. And we'll mention a beautiful, subtle point as we go along. But don't argue with one another. If it's an issue that you want to discuss it in a manner of arriving at the truth, not just to be right over somebody. If you feel yourself getting like, I just want to be right, then stop. Stop. Reevaluate your intention and talk about it another day. فَعَلَى طَالِبِ الْهُدَى أَنْ يُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ السُّنَّةِ. Pay attention. When I'm saying be quiet all the time, but what we're saying is upon the one who is seeking guidance to clarify to the people the sunnah. Clarify the sunnah. Put it out there. Clarify it. It's the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Put it out there. Clarify it. وَيُقِيمَ عَلَيْهَا الْحُجَّةِ, and establish the proofs. Establish them. Put the sunnah out there and establish it. Establish the proofs and evidences. وَيَتَّخِذُ فِي سَبِيلِ ذَلِكَ أُسْلُوبَ الْإِقْنَاعِ, and when you put it out there, make sure that it's strong and convincing. فَإِنْ لَمْ يُقْبَلْ مِنْهُ فَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. And after you put it out there in a convincing and clear manner, if a person doesn't accept it, then it wasn't upon the messenger except a clear conveyance. They don't accept it, alhamdulillah. If they accept it, alhamdulillah. But I can't make you believe anything. So you find a person saying, well, it didn't convince me, Hey, what do you want me to do? Don't convince you. So that's what I got to offer. Don't convince you, don't convince you. It's upon me to do what? Convey. I don't want to sit here and go back and forth with you trying to convince, now that you're trying to learn. You're trying to learn, I sit here and I go back and forth with you until you understand. But once it becomes clear that you're not trying to learn, you're not trying to learn, you're trying to win an argument. You're trying to be right. If you feel that you're right, I'm not able to convince you. This is what I have. I conveyed the sunnah, I'm not going to do what? Cool. And no doubt, some people have that disease. But they love to do what? Have you met somebody like that in your life? All they want to do is just do what? Argue. Everything is an argument. Everything is a quarrel. Everything is a big. I'm just telling you what I know. What you want to argue? Why are we arguing? You want to accept it? Accept it. You want to reject it? Reject it. If you reject it, I don't have to be. You're not on the same thing I'm on. I don't want to be around you. Now you're going to force me to be around you? And it goes on and on and on again. You don't want to accept it, don't accept it. Alhamdulillah, you don't accept it. But now, when I take my position, don't get mad at me. وقد قال الإمام أحمد رحمه الله, and الإمام أحمد رحمه الله, he said أخبر بالسنة. الإمام Ahmed, he said, inform the people about the sunnah. ولا تخاصم عليها. And don't argue about it. Inform the people about the sunnah and don't argue and quarrel about it. وقال الحيثم ibn Jamil, قلت لمالك ibn Anas, I said to Malik ibn Anas, Ya Aba Abdullah, I said, oh Aba Abdullah, الرجل يكون عالما بالسنة. Listen to the description of this person. A person, he knows the sunnah. He knows the sunnah. يجادل عنها, should he argue and quarrel about it? Should he dispute with the people about it, go back and forth with them? He knows the sunnah. Should he go back and forth with people about it? قال Allah. He said no. قال Allah. لكن يخبر بالسنة. However, he informs the people about the sunnah that he knows. He informs them. Don't need to go back and forth. يخبر بالسنة. فإن قبلت منه وإلا سكت. Listen to this profound statement. If they accept from him, that's excellent. Alhamdulillah. وإلا سكت. If not, he remains quiet. He remains what? Quiet. You don't have to respond to everybody. Everybody wants you to respond. We convey the sunnah. The person don't accept it, well, in that second. The person is the description of somebody that knows the sunnah. Imam Malik, he says he conveyed if they accept it, alhamdulillah. If not, he just remains what? Remains quiet. Because someone doesn't respond or somebody doesn't go back and forth, that's not a sign of inability. That's not a sign of inability. I asked you, brother, do you respond to everybody that says something to you? ask all of you, do you no need to answer, but ponder, do you respond to everyone that says something to you? It's a fitna. So this particular narration, he mentions clearly, convey the sunnah, they accept, alhamdulillah. Well, in that second, he remains quiet. وَهَذَا كُلُّهُ فِي الْمُخَاصَمَةِ الْمَذْمُومَةِ. All of this is talking about the dispute that's blameworthy. التي تنشئ عنها المفاسد. The type of disputing that's going to bring about harm. The type of disputing that's going to bring about harm and trouble and getting someone hurt. That type of dispute. حتى تتلاشى المصلحة في جنبه. To the point where the benefit disappears from the dialogue. That's the type of dispute that's being talked about, where the benefit has disappeared from the dialogue. No benefit. Now, and there's an important verse, right? This we had this ayat right here. وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. And don't debate with the people of the book. Don't debate with the people of the book, except with that which is what? Good. Except with that which is good. Have a good usloob with them when you debate with them. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. Except those who are oppressive from them. Except for those who are oppressive from them. What's meant by oppressive from them, except for those who are oppressive from them, he disputes trying to win an argument and cause confusion. Debate with them in a good manner, except for the one who's what? Oppressive. What's meant by that? The one that's oppressive, that he's only trying to win an argument and cause confusion. At that point, there's no point in doing what? Debating with him. There's no point in going back and forth with him, because the whole purpose is what? Lost. The purpose is lost now. So when you see that purpose having slipped away, there's no point. There's no point anymore. Now, Shaykh Abdul Salam, he mentions أما المجادلة بالتي هي أحسن, as it relates to the mujadala or the dialogue where there's some type of benefit in it, then that's something that's good. Where a person desires the truth, or he wants the truth, or the two parties, they want the truth. Now, listen to it. We'll finish with these two, a couple of narrations, and then we'll cease. Inshallah ta'ala. Don't want to talk too long. We have a narration called Yunus As-Safti. ما رأيت أعقل من الشافعي. He said, I didn't see anyone more intelligent than Al-Imam al-Shafi'i. I didn't see anyone more intelligent than Al-Imam al-Shafi'i. نظرته يوما. We had a dialogue one day. We had a discussion. One day. في مسألة ثم افترقا. We had a discussion, and then we debate, and then we departed. Had a debate about an issue, and then we departed. وَلَقِيَنِي فَأَخَذَ بِيَدِي. So he met me, and he grabbed my what? Grabbed my hand. We met up again after having departed, and he what? He grabbed my hand. ثم قال يا أبو موسى. And he said, oh Abu Musa, ألا يستقيم أن نكون إخوانا. Isn't it better that we be brothers? after their what? Debates. Isn't it better that we be brothers? Even if we don't disagree about this issue. That's how we should be with each other. That's how we should be with each other. There's an issue that we disagree about, then we should have some etiquette. We should have some etiquette with one another, like we see from Imam Shafi'i. قال ذهبي تعليقا على هذه الحادثة. And Al-Dhahabi said about this particular occurrence, قلت هذا يدل على كمال عقل هذا الإيمان. He said that this particular instance, it shows the total intellect of this Imam. Shows the complete intellect and intelligence that this Imam had. وفق نفسه, and that he understood himself. فما زال النظراء يختلفون. He mentioned that those who discuss things will continue to disagree. That's a reality, right? Discuss things, there's going to be some disagreement sometime, but the goal is to make sure that we're trying to arrive at the what? At the truth. Not that we're trying to give victory to ourselves. And likewise, we have the narration again in Jamil Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlihi, and عن العباس بن عظيم العنبري قال كنت عند أحمد بن حنبل. He said, I was with Ahmed ibn Hanbal. وجاءه علي ibn al-Madini. And Ali ibn al-Madini, he came. راكبا على الدابة, upon his riding beast. Imam Ahmed, then Ali ibn al-Madini came on his riding beast. قال فتناظر في الشهادة. So he discussed the issue concerning the companions. So he discussed the issue concerning the companions. وارتفعت أصواتهما. And their voices became what? Raised. حتى خفت أن يقع بينهما جفاء. And he said, I thought that there was going to be some discord was going to occur between them. I thought that some discord was going to occur between them. وكان أحمد يرى الشهادة. So Imam Ahmed, he had his view about this particular issue. وعلي يأبى ويدفع. And Ali ibn al-Madini, he had his view about it. He didn't agree with Imam Ahmed. فلما أراد علي الانصراف. So when Ali ibn al-Madini, he wanted to leave. When he wanted to leave, قام Ahmed. Imam Ahmed, he got up and he moved. You get on a horse or a riding beast, they had a little foot thing to stir up. So when Imam Ahmed, when Ali wanted to leave, Imam Ahmed, he got up and he helped him with his what? His foot straps. Helped him with his foot straps so he could put his foot in and get up on it. Remember, he came on a riding beast. Helped him with his foot straps so he could put his foot in his foot straps and leave. That's how we interact with one another. That's how we interact with one another when it comes to differing about an issue. And he mentioned وقد كان العلماء من الصحابة والتابعين ومن بعدهم إذا تنازعوا في أمر اتبعوا أمر الله تعالى في قوله وإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله ورسوله. And the companions, and Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions that the scholars from the companions and from the tabi'een, when they differed in the issue, they will follow the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will follow the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you differ about something, then return it back to Allah and His Messenger. Now, we'll end on this point. This is the point that I wanted to mention to everyone. وَكَانُوا يَتَنَاظَرُونَ فِي الْمَسْأَلَةِ مُنَاظَرَةَ مُشَاوَرَةً وَالْمُنَاصَحَةِ. That when they used to discuss issues, when we say dialogue and debate, when we're talking about the companions and the tabi'een, when we say dialogue and debate, they used to dialogue and debate with an approach that was counsel and advice. Pay attention to what I'm saying. They would dialogue with one another in a manner that was counsel, seeking counsel and advice. And you find that with the students of knowledge. You find that with the students of knowledge where you call a person up and you say, what you think about this issue? It's about to be a what? A dialogue. But But is contact being made to be what? Confrontational? It's not being made to be confrontational. The contact is being made and the dialogue is about to take place from the angle of counsel and advice. I came across this issue. You ever come across something on that issue? Yeah, I came across it at XYZ. Trying to figure out where this narration is. Oh, it's XYZ. Is it authentic? Is it da'if? And you find that the dialogue is one of what? Counsel and what? Advice. Counsel and advice. We discuss issues with one another. That's how we should be. Not that we're trying to overcome someone. Now, we'll stop there, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who busy ourselves with seeking knowledge and reality. Who busy ourselves with seeking knowledge and reality. And I ask Him to make us from those who don't become trialed by social media. People are being put to trial by social media right now. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who busy ourselves with our families. No doubt, I'm talking to the men in here. We have to busy ourselves with our families. Busy ourselves with nurturing our families. Busy ourselves with earning halal provisions for our families. Cultivating our families. That's what we should be doing. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect our communities from fitna and confusion and trials and tribulations. And again, the way to do that is to create an environment of seeking knowledge. And know for sure that those who seek fitna, they can't stand that type of environment. They're not going to last. They're not going to last. Because people that want fitna and confusion, that's what they're coming around for. Fitna and confusion. Barakallahu feekum, hafizakum Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.